Today I'm going to be working in my succulent garden. I have a lot of hens and chicks and a lot of other succulents that I'm going to talk about caring for them and just repotting them and giving them new life. These succulents are hens and chicks, and then this one in the pot on the left is the sedum sun sparkler. This is considered a low-growing succulent, and that's why I have it in with my chick. This one is called salsa jelly beans, and you can see the red on the ends there, and it's also an easy plant to grow. This next one is an extremely hardy perennial. I've had them come back year after year. It's tasteless stone crop. You might hear this succulent referred to as curly toes. It gives really good ground cover. Whenever you want to plant them or repot them, it's really easy because you just pull them out. It kind of comes out in like a string of roots, and then put it in your soil, which of course is going to have a cactus mix in there, and it will take immediately. So first what I'm going to do, since I had these terracotta planters, which I love because they're so cheap and you can do a lot of fun things with them, I'm just painting them with Waverly chalk in the color Elephant, and I'm going to give them a good coat all over. I'm going to set that one aside for now because I need that base coat to dry, and I'm getting started on this one that already has a plant in it, so I made a bit of a protector to protect the plant so I can go ahead and get a base coat on it as well. This one I'm doing with Waverly chalk paint in the color Mineral. I love this color because it's kind of a taupey brown, and it just looks really nice once it's dried. So I'm just going to dry brush some white onto this pot, and this is chalk paint Waverly in the color White. So when I'm doing this, I get a tiny amount of white paint, especially since they're such contrasting colors. Get a little bit of white onto your bristles, and you're going to wipe most of it off onto some sort of surface, like I'm using the cardboard right there, and then you're just going to go through and gently start to swipe it all over the pot. And you really want your bristles to be relatively dry so that you can go back through and thin it out and kind of just give it a little bit of that depth and to make it look really nice with these two colors. So these pots have had time to dry, and I'm just going back in with Rust-Oleum Clear Matte Enamel, which is going to give it a really nice protection, and I'm just spraying that all over, and I will let that dry as well. And I'm going to move on to my first little craft, which is going to be for a small hens and chick succulent. It's a home for it. It's a little wheelbarrow that I made a hole in, and I also have this plastic container that I drilled holes in and I painted, and I'm just showing that I'm putting some rocks in the bottom to give it really good drainage. And then I'm filling it in with a soil that is specifically made for succulents. So succulents really need little to no fertilizer. These, however, were gifted to me, and they sat in a Ziploc bag for 4 days at my work before I was able to get to them. So I just wanted to make sure that they had everything they needed, and I used what I had on hand, which was an organic fertilizer, and you're going to use half of the recommended amount, and just make sure you mix it in really well because you don't want that fertilizer to sit onto the roots. And you can see where I just clip it off a bit low, like go down as far as you can to cut it off from the root of the plant, and just snip it right off, make a hole into your soil, and it will take very well, especially after you water it in. Succulents are extremely hardy, and as long as you give it an initial root that has a little bit of length to it, it's going to take and it's going to do well. So all I'm doing is making little holes with my finger in order to put these chicks in. This is gonna be like a first stop for these plants. They're gonna grow and they're gonna get large, and you want to repot them in a different container so that they continue to get bigger. But this is just so that they can kind of get established and get a bit of a root system going on. And then eventually I will rotate them out, and I'll replant these in larger containers, as well as pruning off some of the chicks because they really do give off a lot of babies. So I'm just making 2 holes for both of these plants for the root to be able to go in, and just putting them in and gently placing them where they need to go, spraying them in, and then they took root and they did really well. So I finished up just continuing to put the rest of these chicks from that one plant into this container, gently pressing them in and then spraying them in. And then I filled the rest of it up with these little rocks that I had. It just gives it a nice touch. Then I'm moving on to a couple other pots that I have. So I'm starting off with the same process where I put some of the succulent soil in first, and putting in a little bit of fertilizer and making sure to mix it in well with the soil, making a hole for the succulent and then putting them in. I always end by watering them in well and keeping them well watered within the first week of whenever they're taking root, and they always have done really well. My succulents will either stay in these containers and they won't grow much bigger because they're constricted by the container that they're in, but they will give off chicks around them. So I just clip off the chicks and then I will repot those into other small containers or gift them to people. So here are the two babies that we just clipped off of the hen plant, and then you can see the big one where it has a lot more room to grow and breathe now. So now moving on to another craft pot, and what it is just a piece of firewood, a log, and I used a paddle bit to make holes in the log. So I made 3 holes, and then I went back with the drill and kind of just made a drain hole that goes all the way through the log so that the water doesn't just sit in there, although it would be fine if you don't overwater it. I did want to give it a little bit of drainage, so I just made a hole that went all the way through all of the 3 holes in the log, and then I put soil in, a tiny succulent, and it looks super cute, and they did really well in this log. So here I have a couple hen plants. These have given me a lot of chicks over the year so that I've had them, and I saved them from a bigger container that I had where I had about 5 huge hen succulents in there that were giving off a lot of chicks, and they were just getting kind of constricted and there was a lot going on. So I dug them out by the root and I'm putting them in their own containers. It's a good idea with your succulents or any potted plants that you have to completely change out the soil about every 2 years. So every 2 summers, in the beginning of summer and the beginning of the growing season, if you want to take them out and completely refresh their soil with fresh soil, that's going to give them their nutrients to thrive really well in their containers. One of my last containers that I repurposed was this cast iron pot that I found in the woods, and it already had a cracked bottom, so I just figured that would be a good drainage hole, and I took some of that stone crop with fresh soil and it took immediately. These are some more of my crafts that I did for containers. The middle one I just glued sticks all around it, and then the one on the right I painted a camo pattern. Thanks for watching my process of repotting succulents and also giving them life in new containers. Be sure to check out my channel and subscribe for more content like this and also some incredible recipes.